Kjartan, you can go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah, it just seemed like it's letting people in still. Hello, I'm Kjartan Hermansen. Hope everybody's getting in here and just counting up as I'm talking. This will be the subscriber webinar. We're planning it, it's a little bit up in the air still, but it's currently planned to be every month going forward, at the end of the month. It's a little bit up in the air whether monthly will be the right schedule, but that's what we're planning for now. And then obviously it's been a while since we've done, Brian Martinson used to do these ones. It's been a while since they have been held. So there's quite a bit of content to go through today. I am Kjartan Hermansen. Some of you have probably talked to me in the past, had meetings with me, at least communicated with me. I am not with AIAG, I'm with Plexus International and Apparatus. So I am the original architect of the CTS software, and I run the software development for Plexus and Apparatus. And yeah, we develop CTS. So I'm situated in Ontario, in Canada, and yeah, background from oil and gas industry and a lot of industries for many years, aviation, automotive, military, and such. So what we're going to talk through today is, if I can go to the next page here, I want to do a demonstration of recent upgrades and enhancements. And obviously next month, I will start toning that down. Hopefully by next month, we also have some new stuff deployed that I can go through. But right now, I want to do catch up on, going back about a year and a half, I think. And I'm going to go through some of the parts really quickly. And then I'm going to demonstrate some of the parts. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of the new functionality, and then make sure of that to begin with. Next, we'll do a presentation of upcoming CTS upgrades for second and third quarter 2023. There is two. It might be split into more upgrades than that, but currently we're planning to have two upgrade packages. And I'll go through those content-wise, or actually the exact implementation, especially of the third quarter one, is not 100% defined yet. So, but I'm going to go through the desired functionality and how we're outlining it, and then finally I'll go through the presentation of the rest of the development for 2023. Now, that likely won't be deployed until early 2024, but we are also looking into doing more running the deployments there as well. We'll see how that one is lined up for deployment schedule, but I'll at least outline the changes that's coming, the enhancements, and the improvements. So we were intending to have a question session after each of these three sections, and so I'll do the demonstration. We'll talk. If you have any questions, send them in. Scott will be presenting some of the questions after there, and the same thing after section 2 and section 3, and then all the questions will be sent over to us afterwards. So yeah, I'll try to get through everything, have somebody go through everything after this. Going forward next month, the month after, and all that, I hope that we can turn this more into a also a back and forth, more of a user group, have more of a workshop maybe around things as well, and that we can play some things off here, hear suggestions, and yeah, obviously this is supposed to be a bit of a voice of the customer as well, that we have we get input. We need to know, I mean, I have a pretty good impression of where the pain points are and what's important development and such, but it is good to get it confirmed in here, and also the things that we are intending to do, just to make sure that we're on the right path as we think we are. And yeah, so if I can move forward on this now. Recent development, and not all of this is recent, and I realize that. If I can go through these item by item first, process flow visualization. So you've likely been in and seen that particular thing. I'm going to go into one project here very, very quickly. And forms. So what I'm talking about here is the visualization modes here and such. The fact that we've added a lot of options for visualizing your process flow. There is one item further out in the development one where we intend to make sure that we can push this to other forms as well. I mean, it's not normally included in the FMEA control and anything else, but that you have the options for things as well. If you want to make your own custom templates, that we can push it over. But right now, we did a lot of work on the visualization here and allowing you to tweak the output and such, and there will be further enhancements to this. Product family libraries and linkage. Now, of course, that was a big one. And we're something that was really much lined up. The fact that you have a lot of admin functions for this. So if I go into the product family types, I want to point out, as there will be questions right after here, that that there will be a further and a lot of upgrades to this particular section. So I'm going to get to that in section 2. I'm going to talk about the upgrades that's going to come for this editor, for the functionality around it. There's going to be quite a lot coming in second quarter, third quarter. So we'll talk about that. But building your product family libraries, that's been, from the way it was set up, we do know we'll have a lot of customers who are using the systems differently now, who are a lot of customers with really big libraries. We're talking 10 to 15,000 records in here. And latency became an issue. We did a lot of performance upgrades in the last couple of months. And we are doing further. So, and we're also doing a lot of, like I said, optimizations, and which I'm going to get back to. But this functionality here, and then of course the interaction with the records in the forms, the linkages to the reusable library or to product family libraries, and the ability to add in. Now this form is probably already using all the library records. No. The ability to add in from the library as well, and build the linkages between the library and such, and produce alerts. I don't know if there's any pending here, when the library gets updated for you to review and update and commit. Again, this is also something we've been improving, and we will keep improving, because I know there is aspects to this. Some people get a bit of an approval alert overload. But then on the other side, I have the trainer and content specialist telling me that everything needs to be reviewed and approved. So yeah, so we're trying to find the perfect in between where we can, where we don't overload, but still everything needs to be reviewed by whoever is responsible for this form here, for example, and such. So there's been a lot of work. Obviously, this was a huge upgrade to the system, and it's not, but it's a bit back in time now. Account merging and migration, that's probably not one that most of you have touched on, and I'm not going to be showing anything for that particular one. It's just we did a lot of work being able to merge accounts together, migrate accounts, for example, from the US server to the Mexico server, be able to so like I said, to put 2 accounts together. We're also doing account splitting, which also comes up quite a bit. So like putting content from one account into 2 accounts if a company sells an asset or splits and stuff. So there's been quite a bit of functionality there. So it is available if you ever need it. That's pretty much what I want to talk about. Process families, libraries. Same time as we did the product families, we also built in up all the process families. So that mostly affects the product family libraries, where you can group all your records and such into process families, allowing you for better ways of including those records into your separate forms. So if I toggle back to that, going to the, oh no, now I'm in the wrong one again. Sorry about that. Here, So if you go over to the process families, of course, that you have them grouped into their individual process families, allowing you to pull in all the cutting actions there, for example, shipping, cutting records and shipping records and all that. Project publish and releases. That's one that we, if you go back to the project details here, just enhancements that we did here that you can now releases and publish projects don't only go into your attachments folders, they're not just files anymore, they are points in time. There will be further enhancements to this. We likely won't be publishing the files themselves at all. Now they're more hidden behind this point in time, but likely going forward, we'll just do a print on request from a point in time when you need them, and not do this like the generation at all when you do it, but just splitting them up better so you have more overview and better overview of them. Alerts functionality and interaction, I touched on a little bit there, how you get alerts on things. That's one thing that's going to improve a lot going forward. It's going to add a lot more stuff. So I'm going to get back to that a little bit, but you saw the alert coming up if changes to library and such that everybody gets notified about. Active deleted for all objects. That might be, it should be plural at the end. That might be one that you haven't touched on. Let me go to the parts overview. So if you look at the parts overview, you'll notice that administrators have to have an active and a deactivated. Now there's only one deactivated here, but it's just something for support that every administrator, every single object list now, administrators can, if you inadvertently delete a part, a project, a task, anything it is, they can be brought back without contacting support. And that's something we're adding to anything. We're also expanding that in the development that's coming up, that not only administrators will be able to do it, everybody will be able to fully control their own objects. So if you deleted something, you can bring it back. If you created something, you can delete it. So it doesn't matter if you're an administrator or not, it's owned, whatever is owned by you, you have full control of. So probably everybody will see the active, deactivated tabs going forward. They will be changing a little bit, but yeah. Added options for MFA to all accounts. And that might be something that you're not aware of that we should be talking about. New accounts that have been set up recently will know about this, but you do have the option to add multi-factor or two-factor authentication to any account now. You just need to contact AIG about it. We handle, I think we have 3 different options. So we do have text messages and email, but the most common option and the best option is to use any kind of authenticator. So Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. You will get a QR code when you log in and just scan that to your cell phone and use that code to log in. So it is available. It's not wild. It is on the initial order form, I think, but I don't know if it's been publicized to existing subscribers at all. So if that is of interest, you just need to contact AIG about that particular one. Product family records insert. No, sorry, go ahead.
We did have a question about kind of how to install SSO and MFA. I'm Scott, by the way, for the people who just don't know this voice. I work for AIAG. We are going to be creating a web page to help kind of showcase some of the like how to install those 2 factors and things like that. Once we get that page up, we'll do an email out, but it's on the account side. Again, you can contact our email address if you need help kind of setting that up, but each account does allow that to have that. So
yeah, as for SSO, Scott, I'm going to get back to that in section 3. So we're going to, if you have a question about that, it would be great if we could hold it to section 3. I'm going to go through that a little bit there. We're talking about custom SSO then, or any kind of, yeah. So product family records insert. The difference there is just when you add in new records, and I'm sure you noticed this. I don't know if you noticed that it changed. So let me go back to the project here, forms. And I'm already in edit mode. So if I insert these ones, if I want to go over to toggle over to process families and include the, say I want to do the cutting ones. By the way, this particular thing, the select all, unselect, that's one thing that's being fixed as well. Don't know why that's missing. Insert in here, and now before it would always appear at the bottom, but now you can insert at the top, bottom, or in between these two lines here. So now these two records should be coming in there. It's very helpful for accounts that already have 4,000 lines in there and then not have to move everything back up again. So I would advise you to, if you are inserting different sections in your form, to do that over multiple operations so that you can insert those records exactly where you want them every time. It doesn't hurt to do multiple operations for this particular one. So yeah, that's that item. Notification structure, that is the it's tied to the alert structure. But also what we also added is the option for, we didn't go wide on it to begin with. We are going to be able to go a lot wider on it in the development that's coming up. I'm going to get back to that in section 2. Right now, if you get assigned a task in FMEA, for example, if you go over to the actions area and assign an action to anybody, they will get a notification about this. And that will be expanded a lot now going forward. It will be a lot more workflow and interactive tool altogether. And it will be a lot more customizable as well. That will come in a little bit later on, but we will be giving you quite a bit of customization features even early on. Bulk approval of changes, you might have seen that. If you have a lot of approvals, you'll just notice that as you process the approvals, it will say approve all, decline all at the top. We will also be fine-tuning this going forward. It was a temporary fix we put in, no, not temporary fix, but a temporary measure we put in because we had certain accounts that were very adamant about the saving back to library and the interaction between, and they had an enormous amount of approvals pending and such. So just giving them some opportunities to clear those and get through that and make it usable again. But we will be adding more levels to that going forward so that it will be more usable. And then massive improvements, performance upgrades. These are particularly in bigger forms and particularly in the libraries. We did a lot of testing with forms over 10,000 records, and we had an 8 times improvement for the last deployment we did about a month ago. We had an 8 times improvement for records, for libraries with over 10,000 records. And it was particularly because we have a lot of big customers in Europe now, and the latency is higher from Europe. And we needed some way to really improve performance and reduce call round trips to the database, so that those that was particularly what we needed to do for Europe, because you really feel the latency if you have to go back to the database for any data. So, and that will continue going forward. We are switching to different technology on certain sections of the site and such, and that will bring a lot better performance as well. The libraries will be one of the first ones that we will be processing there. So I'm going to get back to that now if we get into section 2. So that's really what I wanted to talk through in the first section here. I don't know, Scott, if you have any.
Yeah, there was a question. What does the foundation button on the product family mean, and what does it do?
Right. So the foundation library, which is a little bit ambiguous. I mean, it has a few different names in the system, which we are trying to consolidate. It's master here, and it's a reusable library and foundation library. So the thing with the foundation library is that it's available to any part and product, so any project across your account. So any records that you add in there, any operations or characteristics will then be available in the drop downs in any FMEA that you create, for example. Now, I'm going to get back to that in section 2, because we are already now in the early parts of second quarter introducing hierarchical product families, which will allow you to organize your product families in a tree structure and allow things to, so you can build foundational libraries for your separate product streams and separate product families, and have sub-product families and such, and let everything trickle down in them. It should give you a lot better control of things, as well as another measure, which I'm also going to get back to in the second section, but I'm hoping that explains the foundational libraries.
Besides that, I don't know if anybody has any other questions about kind of the first section we just went through. So you can submit your questions, but I don't see anything else. I think we're good to go on.
All right. So this section here, there's two subsections to this section. I'm going to go through them. Now, first of all, I should have put in a disclaimer here. The disclaimer is the content of these upgrades might change a little bit, just because we are, well, especially for the third quarter, we are trying to introduce, we are still tentative about pushing some stuff from the later, from the bigger development into that one if we can. We are considering an option to get some of the admin sections converted and get into the third quarter one. So a little bit up in the air, and also the dates are also somewhat tentative, at least. The first quarter, the first deployments here, that they should be pretty set. So some of these are already done. They're in testing already, and we will be going through these in more detail in the next section. So hopefully that will be at the end of April, or that's planned for the end of April at least. And I will be then, by then, I will be demonstrating some of these ones. They're already on the staging server. We have testers going through them. We have a review going on already. So these are lined up for early second quarter, and I don't see, besides there being a rigid change control process, we are on track for those deployments. The biggest item here is definitely the FMEA, PFMEA. I say PFMEA plus, because that obviously the FMEA is going to be the biggest one that customers are going to want to import. But it allows you to import any of the forms into. Initially, I had planned for it only to be allowed to import into libraries, to allow you to build the libraries quickly based on Excel sheets you already have laying around, or any system you're coming from, anything you want to do. But we are changing it to allow you to import it into any form at a part level. So anywhere you can do this import. You can import an Excel sheet, comma separated file, copy paste from anywhere, and it will be a very, very customizable importer. It looks similar to the importer that's already there. It allows you, those already allow you to do all these things, but this will be based on your existing templates. So whatever template you're doing, you can use the regular AIG VDA template or the 4th edition template, or customize your own, and then you import using that template. After import, you can tweak it like you have done. You will be reviewing the data. But the biggest thing here that will happen after the import, and that's how we discussed this a lot with AIG, and this is how we arrived at the decision to offer it on the part level as well, is that we will be offering a reverse linkage processor after. So basically, you will be submitting the import. It will then bring up the reverse linkage screen, and that will happen after it's analyzed your import and matched it up against operations and characteristics on your part. It has matched it up, or actually, hang on, I'm going to go to the next screen. It's better written up there. Why am I talking about it without showing you? So user will get a page post-import that offers to generate operations and characteristics, and also it will link imported records to existing data on part and in product family libraries. So the import there will match the records as well as it can. It won't do anything automatically, but it will tell you how well things are matching up. And then you can link them together with the library records, or you can set it to generate all of these operations and characteristics for you. So we're doing the reverse approach. Instead of you having to define the operations and characteristics up front, you can now do the reverse. And you can also do the same thing with all the linkages. So you no longer have to build a library and then push down the parts. You can do it in the reverse. It's going to be a huge update, and it is ready. It's in testing, so should be so it's lined up for that, for the dates that we have. It will be hopefully early Q2 as well. Should compare imported data to existing characteristic power records or part libraries connected to part and foundation. It will be a match percentage and will offer to generate operations on part listing. Also linked to the relevant records. Big upgrade. And we'll talk about it more detail next one. Sorry.
Yep, we did have a question to see if we could demo the import, but I'm guessing that's once that's out, that's a future probably webinar to actual demo the whole thing.
It hasn't gone through our internal testing yet. It's very close, so I don't want to run into bugs right now. I probably wouldn't, but I would like to. Obviously, I'm going to have less content in the April one I'm doing of this. So this will be a great thing for the April one, where this should have. Hopefully, it will even be deployed, but I can't guarantee that. But if it hasn't been deployed to live yet, it will be very close to going live, and that's so we will at least run through it, demonstrate everything, show you exactly how to use it and all that, and that would probably be the case for this entire first section here. So not today, but very soon. I'm going to go into the next item. Go into the next item here. Is that next item? Yeah. Product family print export, smaller item, but we had some requests, and I can't quite see who's on the call here, but I know some of you have requested this, that you want to be able to also export and print the product family libraries. We didn't initially allow that, simply because there's a lot of extra, the functionality wasn't really very easy to port over from the regular part, because there's a lot of extra stuff with all the applicability, visibility at the start of the forms, and we're adding more stuff now, but we have added that in now, so now you can export it to Excel. We didn't think there would be a lot of requirements for it or use of it, but we do find now that a lot of you are bringing in data maybe from Excel, and you want to compare the data afterwards, and some of you want to bring it down and compare it in Excel and work through it. So, and we allow for that. So now going forward, so that you will be seeing now a print icon in there, which will allow you several different export options. This actually, the last part here should have been on the next slide. Okay, hang on now. I think my titles have been messed up there a little bit. Hang on 2 seconds. Yes, this, sorry, I messed up the titles. This was the one that applied to there. So this one here is actually the localization one, sorry about that. So the localization one, I'm going to get to that one now. So that's a second item here. Product family library localization. That's another big one for the ones that, for the product family library. So there will be another column after the process family. I'll toggle over to it here right now. So in the library, you have the process family applicability here. Now this is also ready, it's on the staging server already, we're testing it for deployment. You will have another column coming up here. It's a multi-select column. And if you have 5 different factories, you will now set the applicability for each of the records in the library. So you say that this particular record, which is in the wheel product family, applies to plant A, plant C, and plant E. And then the next record applies to only the plant A. That means that plant A will see both these 2 records when they build their FMEAs, whereas plant C will only see the first record. That allows you now to build this in so that you have a lot more control in the libraries, and you don't get overloaded with data that doesn't apply to your factory or your plant or your current situation. We're trying to build a lot of customizations options in here, and you will see the library changing a lot, but for the better. It's going to get a lot less complex as well, which is the next item I'm going to get to. I'm going to get to that in section 2, really. But just remember, there's a new column coming in here, and that will be the one that brings in, can now be associated with one or more locations. Any records connected to, for example, your plant in Mexico City, will be the only records they see when working on FMEAs. And this will also apply to operations and characteristics. So when you're working on operation characteristics on the part, they will also be location bound. So only operations and characteristics that apply to plant C will be seen by plant C, just to avoid overload of data and also allow you to build better libraries and better data. Sorry about the headers there, we messed up. Right. Hierarchical product families. Now, this, I kind of forecasted a little bit, but we allow you now to structure the product families in a multi-level hierarchy. Better structure, matching your existing organization, your organization's existing structure, and for example, allowing for product family libraries, product family foundation libraries, in addition to the account as a whole. It allows you to bring that. If you have two main product streams, you can put product family A in foundation over here, product family B foundation over to the other side, and then have sub product families under there, allow you to do now you so as I just showed, you can now structure it so you can have records applied to different locations, but now you can also build a better hierarchy so that you can separate them into substructures as well. Hopefully will help you mimic your existing structure a lot better. I've done a lot of demos where I hate having to tell anybody that you need to do workarounds for anything. So in all this development, we're specifically targeting any workaround we have encountered in the past, and we're trying to fix it in a proper and future-proof way. So this is another big one for building these hierarchies. The last item for quarter 2 is improvements to the template editor improvements. Again, I can't quite see who's on the webinar right now, but I know a lot of you have been requesting some of these items. Some of you have been requesting all of these items. So first of all, we now will give you control of the merging. You will be able to set yourself if you want this particular column to do a vertical merge or not. We might even give you more controls to make you to have dependent merging and such like that. Only merge if the column, other column is merging. We'll see how far we go in the customization of it. Some of it will come now, some of it will come later. Allow for multilingual input for custom columns. That's one thing that's been missing, and it will be coming in now. So for example, if you do make a custom column called notes, you will also now be able to add the header information in Spanish and Chinese and any other languages we allow for, allowing that column to toggle. It's been a bit of a, it was a functionality that was let out of the development before, and we're catching up on that now. That also goes for the one that down here. It says fix for columns. No, wait. Okay, this one here. Allow for add, edit, reorder functionality for subcolumns. Don't know how many of you have hit on that particular one, but it's been a missing functionality that subcolumns, you didn't have any edit functionality for subcolumns, and you will now be granted that. We are also looking into adding a third level of subcolumns, but we don't know when that will be coming in. I can't promise that. I'm not really doing a hard promise of anything, but it's the we will be looking into that as well, but at least allowing you to order things and add and edit at the lower level. You will also have control of column styling, at least width and color. Color is showing in the editor, but it was never editable. Width will allow you to better organize your forms so that you can set a max width for columns. You can set a max, and you can tweak that. Some of you want narrower columns and such, and then you will have now a better control of that. Fix for columns that don't visualize correctly. Now they do. I'm going to be. There's certain things. For example, the product family, the process flow. I mean, the operation. The way the operations types showed. Some of you have requested to also show operation types in other forms, and it's a tricky one because it's very tied to process flow. Now, what we're doing is we're going to be doing a simplified version of the operation types if you include it in other forms. So basically, a symbol and name. or kind of how it shows when you're in edit mode in the process flow. The same thing, the other thing that will be corrected is that some columns don't, even though you can reorder them in the editor, they will snap into place again in the actual form. They're a little bit rigid, so we will be reviewing all of that. Some of them are still, some of them came in with the whole interaction with the libraries and such. It is tricky with, like, for example, the operations, like the process columns. They need to be sequential because they're going under the same header column and such, and then some of them are tied together because they also do pre-populate. But we will be giving you a lot more reflecting the editor if you move them around and improve all of that. Some of them will come in here now in second quarter, some of them will come in later, but we will be correcting a lot of that stuff now going forward. And allow for columns to share content. This is one we're looking into. Basically, it might sound a little weird, but if you have a template where you want to show control methods under a different name, for example, we will allow you to do that now. These two columns will be tied together. So if you edit or add content in one, it will reflect in the other. But it allows you to build another header, and then it allows you to put it under another parent, for example. Say that you want to have a banner header for the one with another header text for it, but the content should be shared. We will now allow you to do that. It's just a linkage in the database so that changes to one is reflected to the other. We will be allowed. There will be expansions to this going forward too. We're aiming to make this a very, very, very customizable tool for you, and also for future use in other to generate forms and such for other purposes. So that was the end of section 1, but I wasn't aiming for questions until the next section, unless there are questions pending. Scott,
yeah, there's a couple.
Okay.
It might be a good time to grab a couple. There's a couple, looks like the kind of fixing features fixes. One was asking if there was a timeline for fixing. Looks like there's an issue for not being able to create a new product family. I don't know if that's.
I haven't heard that, but I would like to talk to whoever reported that after, and we can get a support.
Follow up and try to figure out what's going on there. There's also one. Sounds like when you're editing CTS view, if you didn't save information and you pin a column, everything seems to disappear and deletes. I don't know if that's
again, that has been fixed, and that is going out as a hot fix either today or tomorrow.
Okay, so that sounds
so that particular, yeah.
Okay. So just to let everyone know, we will be sharing this presentation. We should have a recording and whatnot, so that will go out after the presentation's over.
Yep. All right.
We also, go ahead.
No. If you had anything more, then just do it now, and I'll move on. I just looked at the time, and so I don't want to make sure we can keep it within the allotted hour for this particular one, and I have quite a bit of content to go through.
Okay. Yep. If you want to go ahead, I'll organize the rest of the.
Okay. Great. So we're calling this Q3 now. I'm saying that's me being safe, really. We are hoping to push some of this content up to Q2 as well, but we'll have to look at it. There's a summer coming and stuff too, but this is at least content. The deployment that will come right after the Q2 deployment that I just presented. We might do this in 2 as well, so we're just we like to get things out once they're properly tested and once they've gone through the change management structure, and obviously we want to get this to you as soon as possible, particularly the product family library optimizations. I'll talk about that first. The rest of the items are related a lot to what did I do? A lot to the my mouse wheel is very sensitive. I'm sorry if it switches up and down. A lot of it, the rest of it would tie to approvals, notifications, and access. I'm going to go through them in a second here. The biggest one is product family library optimization. Now, what I talked about right here before, this whole thing we're going to be simplifying it a lot. If you go into work on, okay, say block A product family here, you won't see all the stuff. You won't see all the filter options. We won't see it until you need it. You can go into an advanced mode, then you can do it. Most of the time, I find you just want to see that product family, and you just want to work on that product family. So we're going to be simplifying it a lot, and also that also brings the performance improvements, because it won't be loading up the 15,000 records anymore. It will be loading up the 400 records that you're interested in. And those are the big things that to really optimize it for you. There is one down here. We are contemplating, I can't tie anything to that, to fast track new usability and backend technology for the product family library in particular, to even more to gain even more performance improvements early on. It's a little bit up in the air, but we are very much trying to push as much as we can there to get that optimized, because we find that that's where companies are now adding. That's one of the bigger pain points, and we're adding in a lot of records. There's another thing I'm going to get to in the third section for ongoing development for 2023, where we're adding a lot more editing functionality to really give you better interaction and cooperation in the product family libraries. So bear with me when I get to that right after this, if you have questions about that particular one. User groups, teams, and roles. They're all really roles, but we allow you to define them as different things. So you can define them. Administrators will be able to define user groups, teams, and roles. Some of them will be predefined as well. Some of them will be customizable. Different level of customization will be made available in this upgrade and in future upgrades. And in most situations, these can take the place of individual users. So for example, these can be functional groups, role, teams, or used to mimic the real world structure. For example, mid-management, approvers, anything that you already have existing in your organization. And it can be used in any settings, like I said. For example, in approval structures, you can say that new projects has to be improved by mid-management, or access rights. You can say that parts can only be approved, like can only be updated by this group, or by this role, or by these 4 individuals, for example. You will have a lot more control and allow you to also define these. So we're really trying to improve that. But right now, the system is tied to the location field for all access and visibility, and that will all change. So that wherever you see a location field right now, that location field will be disappear, and it will be what will be taking its place is a access kind of functionality. It will be a pop-up, most likely, that you bring up, and then you can tweak the access as you would between individuals, groups, roles, teams, or locations. We might even expand it more than that, but you will have a lot of options. And really now I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I want to talk about the granular access settings, which is what's coming in what I'm just talking about here. So for example, access to edit or view a part can now be set at a more detailed level. Currently, the system only allows for access by location and no read-write setting, but the system will now allow you to set access for groups, roles, teams, locations, individual users, and you can set them all to read or read-write. So a lot more control for you. Along with this goes an upgraded notification scheme, which will be expanded to cover a lot more situations and events. Initially, we're going to be configuring this, and yes, it'd be great to get your input on this. We have a lot of a short list of items that we're thinking of, like email alert, project management whenever a task is completed, email or alert when a part is updated or a new part is created, email alert when projects are completed, anything you can imagine there. Eventually, we'll make this 100% customizable, and we'll see how much customization we add in this particular deployment or in these deployments. Eventually, after that as well, you'll see that in the next section when I go through it, it will be customizable by the end user as well. So that each user can set whether they want alert or notification or nothing for every single situation at different tiers, at different criticality and such. I'm going to get back to that. Final one here in the Q3. Where is it, the final one? I think so. Dynamic approval functionality. It will follow the exact same structure as the notification triggers I just talked about. It's a trigger functionality that happens in the database. Any object can be set to have a trigger for new, for update, for delete. So for example, you can even set an approval for deleting a project. It doesn't delete right away. It goes to an approval for a manager or an administrator, if that should be configured like that. So any operation on any object can be set to this with any sub condition as well. We won't be giving full access to that obviously at the start. It will be coming in little by little, but it is conditions that get compiled at runtime. So there will be a lot of control of it, the ones that we configure at the start and then eventually give control over. But we will be we pull in these wizards where you can build the conditions that you want to work through, a visual approach to creating them and then building the triggers that should happen. For example, you can say that any project in your Mexico City location that is created by a user that is not an administrator needs to be approved, for example. That's a lot of conditions for one particular item, but these things will be able to be built and used, and it should give you a lot of function, well, it gives you full control of it, and it comes in little by little. I'm not promising all of that at the start, but it's coming in. Yeah, expanded and eventually made fully customizable in future updates. Sorry about my wheel. I wonder if I covered everything there. I did. So that's what we're planning for right after that one. Whether or not it's third quarter or whether some of these will be pushed up to release in the end of second quarter, leaving it a little bit up in the air. It's changed to quarter 3 now just to safeguard and not overpromise, but we are definitely, since we are done with most of the items in the first deployment, we are already moving into this one, but it depends a bit on how well the testing and the response goes to the first package and whether and how long change control takes and such. So I'm just safeguarding a little bit with the timing of this, but we'll see what we can get out as quickly as possible. I know this will be requested functionality. Right, before I move into the last one there, and I know we're running a little bit out of time, I'm just going to go back to Scott. Is there anything new posted there, Scott, or is it just stuff we already got through?
Oh yeah, people are talking. Okay. So some of these definitely, some of the questions definitely sound like some issues people are having individually. We will definitely follow through after the webinar to kind of verify if there's something we need to fix or if it's something going on with your. So some of the fixes questions, I do want to make sure that we will follow up with you. We did have a question. It sounds like when it comes to the content of FMEA and the headers, they're entered in different tabs, but it sounds like why are they not entered all in one part tab was one of the questions that came up. Through the same way.
Let me review that one after, but yeah, if I can get that over. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of questions. I think we can keep going real quick. I know there's a lot of questions. I apologize. But we will be following up individually. We're trying to figure out, exactly which ones we can tackle here. So,
and I do agree with that. Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I see the audience question about if we're running this more as a user group going forward. Yes, and I would like to build our community as well, so we can have that. We talked about that and having more of a discussion around items and perhaps provide more information. Of course, share these webinars as well. So that's one of the aims as well, and build a bit of community around as well, and also have these webinars a lot more interactive. With the number of attendees in right now, it's a little trickier to have that much into interaction, but it's been a while since the last one as well. I mean, obviously we're hoping that we can get a good group going forward as well, but definitely build a community around it as well, because we want to have interaction. We want to make sure that we are that this is the most pressing items. But I see the stuff coming in. I see the questions. I've done pretty much all the presentations and meetings for CTS in the last 6 months at least, and I know where the pain points are, and I know what you're asking for, and I know what the system really needs to have changed. So we're trying to grasp all the high and like critical items right now and push them in. But the more I hear requested stuff that we might be having in medium or low, it gets bumped up, obviously. Every time it gets requested, I bump it up and we try to get it into development. Some of it is low-hanging fruit, some of it is bigger items, but we do have a big overhaul coming up to here now. And in an overhaul, if we can do it in a different way instead of redoing it in the old way, then obviously we're going to do that. So and we try to bump these things up. So I'm going to get into that particular section right now then, and then because it's a pretty big section, and I think I only have 10 minutes left here, if that. 9 minutes. Okay. Upcoming development throughout 2023. When I'm saying that, we have not decided whether we will be doing deployments of this through 2023 or whether we will be. We're hoping. The more we talked about it, the more we're thinking that we will be taking a lot of the editing, like admin functionality at least, and deploy that in 2023, maybe in third quarter, maybe in fourth quarter, and then some of it will be coming in 2024 as well. Most of it probably coming in first quarter 2024 for this particular one stuff, but we're definitely pushing some of it in earlier. Locations arranged in a multi-tier hierarchy. That's one of the items. So now you will be able to not just have one tier of locations. In this example I put down here, you could put Paris and Lyon under France, and you could put Berlin and Hanover over Germany. Not sure who's on the call again, webinar again, but I know some of you have been adding content, library content in different languages. So what I presented before is now that you could set different records as applicable to only certain locations. In this particular one, you can also do a parent location, so that you can say that this is applicable to, this is applicable to France as a whole. This record is applicable to Germany as a whole, whereas this particular record, my mouse is awful, and this particular record is applicable to Paris only, for example. So you would have full control of this, and hierarchy it can be used to control both access and visibility of objects and records, like it says. Same thing for process families. They can be arranged in a multi-tier hierarchy. So the example I'm putting in here, welding, we should then have subfamilies, for example, gas metal arc welding, gas tungsten arc welding, shield metal arc welding, and so that you can then arrange that underneath. It gives you better control of the library records. It can be used system-wide though, and we will be introducing more areas where this is applicable as well. Everything is now being placed into a hierarchy. That's basically what we're doing. So is this next one? Yeah. Customizable notification scheme. So now we will be, this notification scheme will be customizable by both administrators and individual users. We know that there are power users and there are users that don't use it that often. I built a lot of systems for the offshore oil industry in Northern Europe, and like before I moved to Canada, and a lot of that, I dealt with a lot of systems where there were power users in the office locations, maybe we're in the system for 6-7 hours a day, and then there were roughnecks out on the drill ships or offshore installations that were only in the system once a week to put in a welding job or anything. They have very different uses of the system. The power users don't want to get overwhelmed by 500 emails a day, whereas the roughnecks really want to know when this particular item has been approved by the engineers, for example. This allows you to do that. So user A can set that I want an email on an assigned task, or user B can set I just want an in-system alert when I get assigned a task, but only the ones that have priority high. I don't want to get overwhelmed by all the other stuff. I'm going to see it, but I don't want to get alerted by it. So it's different use and customizable. So first, item one, first step on this process is that we configure quite a bit of stuff. Second one, we allow the administrators to configure. Step three, we allow the users themselves to configure things. And then we widen the scope. So it's all coming in a much more, making sure the system is a lot more usable and customizable. That's what we're aiming for. So autosave and all controls and grids. This is the one that will be mimicking the functionality in CTS view. When you work in CTS view, it pushes your information to a draft. There are other places in the system it does it as well, but it's pushing all your information to a draft object every time you leave a text box, every time you make a selection in a drop down. Now, as we move through this, every single form in the system everywhere will be doing that same thing. The draft object will be always updated. That doesn't mean that your autosave does not mean autosave. You still need to persist it manually. You still need to hit that save button. But it won't be like the way, for example, if you're working on a part right now, that particular part, if you leave the system and come back again, your unsaved changes will be gone because the part form is not saving directly to the draft object every time you do make a change, like the CTS view is. Now it will be conformed, so every single item will do this. This is even more important because of the bigger changes coming in a second. I'm going to get back in 2 seconds. Account cloning, I'm going to go super quick through it. It's mostly going to be used for sales and training purposes. We can wind up an account, a prepped account for any purpose. The big impact for this for individual users is that we will be preparing example accounts. We were always doing, we did that even at the start, we did do this. We're providing certain example content, certain, like, we wanted to put in like example projects, example parts, but we felt that it kind of polluted the accounts and such because there were remnants of it in the system, and it's even more so with all the linkages that are on it. But now we will be putting all of that into a generic account, so any user can start a tutorial section, which will basically wind up one of those generic accounts that will only live for that one day. And you can toy with this, to like make any kind of changes, make any kind of delete anything you want, copy anything you want, anything. Doesn't matter. That account is gone at the end of the day. But it uses the exact same functionality that sales and training will be using to just wind up a new account whenever they do automotive training in the system, for example. Now, going into why this draft functionality is changing. First of all, quick edit mode. We will go away from this whole click to edit. If you have the rights to edit, the system will start acting more like a spreadsheet application, for example. If you are allowed to edit, it will start editing as soon as you click into any control you have access to, giving you a lot more, speeding it up. Certain sections you will feel that this is good, and this is a smaller change to most of the areas. The big change is the multi-edit functionality. It will no longer lock the object or the collection, for example, an FMEA for other users. It will allow multiple users to edit a part at the same time or work on the same FMEA. So the users will share the in-memory draft with changes tracked to each user. We could not do this at the start of the system. We could not easily do it because the drafts were stored in their database. We eventually moved the drafts to memory, and we've since moved the drafts to Redis cache, which is kind of like memory, but it's still being persisted, and it's still being auto-replicated between our fail over servers. So even if a server if the whole data center goes down, the system will still come up with the memory objects still available. You won't even lose your draft. So, but now you will also be sharing the draft, and we will be using like signaling technology to push as soon as any user working on the same object make a selection in a dropdown. The signal technology will push that change over to the other users, and it will change on their side as well. It will be like working on the same time in any of the SharePoint, Google Docs, such, but we will be adding even more enhancements to it beyond that. So the reason I have collections as a separate item here is that it's tricky to work on collections. We don't know we haven't quite nailed down how we want to handle moving records, deleting records, inserting library records, and such. We were toying a bit with looking it down for the other users at that point. If you're doing a big operation, we're thinking of more to it's a separate item because this is a very complex one, not from a functionality standpoint, but from a usability standpoint. We need to make sure that it's not like, holy, what happened now? Well, how, like, my whole screen changed just because Peter over there moved 10 records off to a different area. The solution, this might be one that we're going to be pushing. I'm going to be going back and forth with you quite a bit on what makes the most sense for you. The one we are currently probably going to go with is we're going to allow you to just stay in multi-edit mode, but we're going to have a log and an internal chat between everybody who are doing editing currently. So I'm going to move to the next one here, which is visualization. So any changes made by user A will show up on the screen in one color. Changes made by user B will show up in another color. So basically highlighting, like other places you've seen this. But also we'll have at the top of the screen or a side widget show a legend of the users currently editing and a change log. So for example, user A deleted 5 records. I think that would be good. That would, as long as everybody can see what's going on, that will correct that multi-collection stuff. So there will also be a chat functionality to coordinate editing and give better communication. So we're building in a lot of tools for your multi-editing functionality. Other, allow for custom SSO. I saw a lot of questions about this. We have a lot more in the other section here, and there's a ton of smaller tasks, but I don't want to get into those too much right now. This will be for update, the ones coming up in the next few months. This will be expanded more and more detailed, that we can come through it. Allow for custom SSO. So basically, we will allow companies to, if you have an existing single sign-on already, we will allow you to switch your account over to that and use that instead. Some of you have IT requirements for this, and some of you might be on the call here as well. I don't know. Analyzer engine, we're going to be the reverse linkage one that I talked about. The plan is to turn that into an analyzer engine that runs on a wider scope and basically optimizes your account for you. It won't obviously do anything automatic, nothing does. It will just give you all the tools you need to optimize and build linkages, update across your account and your FMEAs, and build a better system. Oh, sorry about that. Upgraded file handler, allowing you to work in specific files without having to lock down the entire project, or so you can basically now check out one file, add a new version of one file, and work on that. And there's a ton more item there. One of the biggest ones that I didn't put in as a separate item is a full UX and UI overhaul. We're going to do, but we're going to do it section by section, doing a huge one, but for performance and also for redesign. Lessons learned, obviously, we have, but we're also going through everything, and we're doing a full overhaul and a full setup, a full change, both to make it future-proof, but also to optimize everything. So I think I'm touched on most of the, I had as a separate item at the bottom here, but yeah, anything there, Scott, before we close this off here?
So yeah, I know there was a lot of questions that came in. We will be following up with those. Any type of kind of fixes and stuff like that, we'll make sure support follows up, and we can either record those issues and get them fixed, or we can see what's going on there. We are planning with CTS to have a lot more training and availability when it comes to coaching and support. There's training hours, sessions that we're planning in the future here. It can be purchased and different things. So there, look for that. We'll be sending an email about that. Again, I apologize. I know there's a lot of questions that came in that we wanted to get kind of more of an interaction with this. And I think going forward, once we kind of, this being the first one and we're doing a lot of catch up, this one would have been obviously a little harder to kind of grab all these, but I will make sure everything gets answered. Anything that gets put in this question, we will have it recorded and sent back to you, and I will have those answers to you soon.
Yeah, there was a lot of content here, so we just figured that the August, May, June ones, there will be less catch up, and obviously, and hopefully have a lot more interaction, and also different demonstration, demonstrate the upgrades coming in the development, and but like play ball a bit with it. We can make changes. We can make some of it. We'll be reaching out for you for comments and such. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it for me. Then I think for this particular one, and then I hope you see you in the next upcoming ones here. Then they will be announced and then go through them.
Yep. Thank you everybody for attending. And again, we will be following up with all the questions you asked, and we'll get back to you.
Okay. Thank you all.